My name is Eleanor, and I'm 32 years old. 3 years ago, I divorced my ex-husband due to his infidelity, but I recently remarried. Thanks to my current husband, I'm living happily every day. However, precisely because of this happiness, memories of difficult times occasionally resurface. My ex-husband wanted to control every aspect of our life and treated me like a housekeeper. Despite working and feeling tired, I was responsible for all the household chores. If even a single piece of trash fell on the floor, he would yell at me. He wouldn't accept a meal unless it included at least 5 different dishes, and if I cut corners, he'd leave the food untouched. I'll never forget the time he scolded me for taking shortcuts with meal prep. And afterwards he eats a lot of potato chips. And of course, it was my job to clean up any food crumbs that fell on the floor. Even when I protested, he'd scoff and say, "A wife who doesn't do housework has no value." He continued to belittle me with hurtful words, and my self-esteem dwindled. He wasn't like this before we got married. Fed up with such daily struggles, I eventually demanded a divorce when he cheated on me. I didn't care who the other person was. I was just exhausted. I said, "Right, but you'll pay me alimony." With that, I ended our short 2-year marriage. Come to think of it, I wonder how Ella is doing. I paused while packing for the move and murmured to myself. Ella has been my close friend since high school. After my divorce, she listened to me and provided much-needed encouragement. Once I've settled in after moving, I'll invite Ella to lunch. I haven't even had a chance to share the news of my remarriage with her. Since our relocation was tied to my husband's job, only close family members know about my remarriage. Ella has been there for me countless times, so I want to make sure I properly inform her. Instead of dwelling on the past, I'll focus on positive things. With that thought, I hummed a tune and resumed packing. One day, 2 months after moving in, I was enjoying my afternoon coffee while flipping through a magazine. With work settled and familiarity with the area, I had started seriously considering meeting Ella. So, even just checking out the recommended restaurants and cafes in the magazine was enjoyable. First, I needed to get in touch and confirm our schedules. It had been quite some time since we last met, so I secretly felt nervous. As I picked up my phone to message Ella, the intercom buzzed in the quiet room. Since I had just moved and didn't know anyone, I assumed it was a door-to-door sales or something. Peering at the intercom, I was surprised to see a police officer standing there. Wondering if there was some kind of incident, I opened the front door. The police officer said,
"We've received several reports about stalking behavior directed at a certain man, and it seems to be connected to you. Do you have any idea about this?"
Caught off guard by the unexpected accusation, I was at a loss for words. Apparently, the man had been receiving love-filled letters almost daily, suggesting a romantic interest. Considering I had just moved to the area, I thought it might be a case of mistaken identity. However, the person seeking help specifically named me as the perpetrator, so they needed to verify the situation. I asked about the identity of the person who filed the complaints, but the police officer only apologized.
"I'm sorry. We're just here to confirm due to multiple reports, so I can't disclose the other party's name yet."
Confused, I accepted the situation. After all, I had no recollection of any such incidents, so I decided to remain composed. In the end, the police officer seemed satisfied with my explanation of being a recent mover, and they said,
"If you find out anything, please report it to us."
With those words, the officer left. Afterward, I flung myself onto the bed in my bedroom. I kicked my legs restlessly and buried my face in the pillow, groaning. The fact that someone had specifically named me sent shivers down my spine, and an indescribable discomfort enveloped my entire body. Why? How? It's terrifying. Lost in my thoughts, I suddenly realized it was already evening. I had intended to contact Ella, but my mood had shifted. I let out a heavy sigh and forced my heavy body to get up and bring in the laundry. After the police left, I consulted my husband when he returned home. He reassured me that it was likely a misunderstanding. The next day, I pondered over yesterday's events. Although my husband's encouragement had lifted my spirits somewhat, I still felt melancholic when alone. Just then, my phone rang, an unrecognized number displayed on the screen. I hesitated but answered, and a familiar voice greeted me.
Hello, Eleanor. It's been a while.
The voice said. It was my ex-husband, Dylan. He chuckled at my stunned silence.
You still haven't admitted to stalking me.
Dylan continued.
The police are fed up. I explicitly told them it was you.
In that moment, I realized yesterday's incident was Dylan's doing. I confronted him, asking if he had reported the strange incidents to the police. He confirmed it, adding that he believed I still had feelings for him, which was why I moved near his house. Apparently, people around him were surprised by the situation. Is your ex-wife really stalking you? He claimed. Dylan's unwarranted confidence infuriated me. Moreover, he seemed to be spreading rumors about me being a stalker. But this was no joke. Memories of our difficult past flooded back, and I maintained a calm facade while my anger simmered. After 3 years of divorce, what are you even saying? I retorted. Besides, I've already remarried. My forceful words fell on deaf ears as Dylan nearly laughed. He suggested we resolve this directly. We agreed to meet at a restaurant. Looking back, I realize I acted impulsively. When I arrived at the restaurant, Dylan was waiting at the entrance. Unlike before, he was wearing a sharp suit that even I could appreciate.
Eleanor, have you become more beautiful?
He said, scrutinizing me. The scent of his cologne wafted from his body and tickled my nose. Enough of that, I replied, furrowing my brows. Dylan shrugged.
Is your personality still as unappealing as ever?
I wanted to tell him to mind his own business, but I followed him anyway. We headed to a pre-reserved table, and to my surprise, someone unexpected was sitting there. Ella, why are you here? Yes, it was my close friend Ella. Seeing me, Dylan and Ella exchanged knowing glances and smirked.
I remarried Ella,
Dylan said, putting his arm around her. His wrist bore an incongruously luxurious watch.
Oh, this? I'm the CEO of a company now, thanks to Ella.
After my divorce, Ella and I got engaged, and with her parents' support, Dylan established his own company. Apparently, it was thriving, but honestly, I didn't care. The word remarriage echoed in my ears. Ella, who knew what I had been through, married this man? I was bewildered. Ella had comforted me after my divorce, listening silently to my grievances. But deep down, She must have been reveling in my misery. She spoke with a triumphant expression. She recounted how she fell for Dylan at our wedding, secretly exchanged contact information that same day, and how Dylan quickly became enamored with her. Worst of all, Ella had instigated Dylan to emotionally abuse me. No wonder his personality changed abruptly after our marriage. They had both enjoyed my suffering, and I hadn't realized it.
Eleanor never gave up, so eventually, I made Dylan wait for alimony and forced him into divorce.
Ella said, sipping orange juice through a straw as if she were tired of talking. It was then that I learned Ella had financially supported the alimony Dylan paid me.
Now, to the point.
Ella continued.
Can you stop stalking Dylan? I was surprised when I saw you recently, but I never expected you to move here just to stalk him. It's disgusting, considering it's been 3 years since our divorce. Unlike you, we're happily married and in love, so give up already.
Ella's tone indicated she had figured out my move to this area after spotting me. Moreover, she believed I had moved here to stalk Dylan. I didn't care if she believed me or not. My mind was elsewhere. Fueled by anger, I stood up, determined not to slap the man and woman before me. I'm not a stalker, and I have no interest in a man like him, I declared, leaving the table. I heard Ella's laughter from behind, but I didn't look back. Then, after nearly 2 more months had passed, I received a call from Dylan. Anticipating it, I answered. Dylan sounded frantic on the other end, and my lips involuntarily twisted. What's wrong? I didn't need to ask. It was obvious. It seems you were indeed a victim of stalking. However, the culprit wasn't me, it was your current affair partner. Dylan confessed. Shockingly, after remarrying Ella, he continued to cheat. His casual flings escalated into full-blown stalking by his infatuated lover. This was the truth. Dylan stumbled over his words as he explained. Apparently, he knew the stalker was his affair partner all along. But if Ella found out and they divorced, he'd lose her influential parents' support. Then, when Ella mentioned my recent move to the area, he saw an opportunity to divert attention by falsely implicating me as the stalker. The police consultation and the restaurant meeting, all Ella's suggestions, left Dylan with no choice. His web of lies had led to this absurd situation, typical of Dylan's foolish behavior.
I apologize for labeling you a stalker, but that doesn't justify your actions.
Dylan's voice trembled. He was clearly in the midst of a crisis. I could hear banging on a door and what seemed like Ella's voice on the other end. Dylan was probably barricaded in his room. How pathetic. As a former friend, I merely informed Ella of the truth. I retorted. The actions Dylan referred to were likely the photos I'd sent Ella. I would like to request compensation for cheating on you. I attached a letter saying, the photo shows Dylan's current affair partner stalking him, and the stalker and Dylan entering a hotel arm in arm. Going to a hotel while still being harassed. Truly surprising, I added, exasperated. Why did you prepare such photos, you might wonder? Well, it was all thanks to my husband. You see, my current husband works as a private investigator. Recently, he opened his own agency and moved with me to this area. Little did we know that his first case would involve Dylan. It's a complicated situation, and I feel somewhat apologetic. Within a month, my husband had uncovered the real stalker and gathered solid evidence of both the stalking and Dylan's infidelity. I'm truly grateful. Oh, by the way, I'll be seeking alimony from both you and Ella, I informed Dylan.
Ha!
Dylan's voice cracked. You knew who the real culprit was, yet you specifically named me in the police report as the stalker. And then you spread that information around. Quite malicious. I continued.
But...
Dylan stammered. I pressed on. Just when I was finally starting to forget about our marriage, you had to reopen old wounds. You'll pay the price for this emotional torment. As Dylan whimpered, a cacophony erupted on the other end. It seemed Ella had broken down his door and entered his room. From a distance, I heard her furious voice.
Who were you whispering to?
Then, the call switched to Ella's voice.
Who are you? The stalker woman?
No, it's Eleanor, I replied. Ella remained emotional, despite realizing she was speaking to me. She was still upset about the alimony claim.
Don't play games. Why should I pay alimony now?
She snapped. I calmly explained what I'd learned from a lawyer my husband had recommended. If infidelity led to divorce and the affair partner's identity remained unknown, alimony claims were valid for up to 3 years from the moment the partner was identified. Just now, I informed your husband about the defamation claim for alimony, I added. Ella's voice trembled.
You money grubber. Don't ruin my happiness.
Isn't this just karma for your actions? I retorted. She targeted Dylan simply because she didn't like me, and she orchestrated his mistreatment of me. After our divorce, she pretended to be a good friend while secretly mocking me. I can never forgive her.
I won't pay any alimony.
When I was summoned to the restaurant, I had a voice recorder in my bag. As a precaution, I had turned it on for self-defense. Unexpectedly, I discovered that Ella was Dylan's affair partner from 3 years ago. I had recorded this conversation, and even now, this call is being recorded. That's right. Regardless of what you say, you both will face the consequences of your actions. If necessary, I intend to use this recording as evidence to hold Ella and Dylan accountable. Remember the business card I included in the photos I sent you? From now on, communicate through that lawyer. Without waiting for Ella's response, I hung up. The sound of the call ending felt like a final break from our divorce 3 years ago. Thanks to the lawyer my husband introduced me to, I managed to secure almost the alimony I wanted from both Dylan and Ella. Ella was disowned by her family after they learned about the alimony claim, and Dylan's company faced a scandal when the affair and stalking were exposed. Dylan lost social credibility and the support of Ella's influential parents. Even now, Dylan and Ella are dealing with the fallout from their affair partner's stalking behavior.
Moving here was quite an ordeal.
My husband consoles me. I want to cherish this person who smiles kindly at me despite the inconvenience I caused him. Finally, we can enjoy some peaceful moments together.
How did you like this story? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Until next time.